Because if you notice that if you have a problem or a misunderstanding with your spouse, the more you leave it to linger, the more the more intense.
Life in a world that keeps changing. Think that it's progress you're making.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Uche. I am a YouTuber based in Spain. How are you doing? I hope you're bouncing in the Lord. Thank you so much for tuning in. So guys, today I want to discuss with you some things I've learned over the years in my marriage. I've been married for 14 years, by the way. I know it's not such a long time, but I have things. I have, some things I've learned over these years and I want to share it with you. But one thing I want to say though is that when it comes to marriage, there's nothing that can prepare you 100%. No matter the amount or the level of counseling you get from your parents, from your pastor, nothing can prepare you 100% of what you're going to see in your own marriage. Your marriage is peculiar to you, is your marriage. There's a popular proverb in my from where I come from that said, "Wine, woman, your bride is like a parcel." Okay, you will not know what is inside until you take her home. So that is the way marriage is. You won't really know, 100%, like 100% what you're going to see, but when you get into it, then you get to find out. And I also want to say this, that marriage, unlike what some young people, people think, that marriage is a destination, like as soon as you get married you have arrived. Oh no. You have not arrived, you just got started. Okay, marriage is a lifetime journey. That is what marriage is, an assignment, is a lifetime journey. Marriage is going to build you. Marriage is going to test you. Marriage is going to test your faith. And sometimes marriage has the high possibility of bringing out some weaknesses you didn't know you ever had. Okay, having said that, I want to go straight into the lessons, the things I've learned in my 14 years of marriage. So the very first thing I will say, which is the most, will I say is the most, all of them are important, but yeah, I will say that there's no way, for me, of course, is my lesson. There's no way anybody can do a blissful marriage without a supreme being. You cannot do, I am a Christian, so I will say, you cannot do marriage without God. As a Christian, you cannot. There's a difference between being married, staying married, and being happily married. I heard an interview with Pastor Kingsley where he said that a woman that was married for 30 years or 30 something years. So she said she wanted a divorce. And when he asked him what the problem was, he said all this while she has not been married. She was just waiting for them to train their children. Then now that they are done training their children, so the marriage is over. So over that 30 years, there was never anything like marriage. They were just living so that they could train their children. They were just living together. And those kind of people know, as long as you don't know them, you might think they're happily married. Do you understand? So there are, like I said, you cannot do without God. You cannot do a blissful marriage without God. And the only way you can do that is by praying, studying your word, and you cannot do without the Holy Spirit. I can tell you, no matter how good of a person you are, no matter how good your husband is, the problem might not come from your character. The problem might not come from, from your husband. It might be an external problem. The Bible said we should watch and pray because the devil is roaring like a roaring lion, looking for who to destroy. Your husband might be a good person, you might be a good person. So the problem can come from anywhere. So the only way you can actually do a blissful marriage, is by praying. And I must add that don't get to any position or any stage in your marriage and get to a place of ease. Like maybe if you experience bliss in your marriage, maybe your husband is treating you well, your children are doing well, financially everything is rosy. That is more time that you need God. Don't ever think that you can do a blissful marriage without prayer, without God. Marriage, a successful marriage is always you, your partner, and God. There are some people that feel that every marriage, there's nobody that will say that they're happily married, that every marriage they are patching, is a lie. It's a bloody lie. There are people that are happily married. Okay, the next thing I've learned in marriage is that every marriage is unique. Every marriage has a way it is structured. Because the way our faces are different, so our characters are, so our families are structured. Okay, don't compare your marriage with someone else's marriage. Apart from the fact that you're not supposed to compare your marriage to another person's marriage, not every advice that you're giving should be implemented in your own marriage. It might not be a bad advice, it might be a very good advice, but before you implement it in your own marriage, learn how your marriage is structured. I'll give you an example. Okay, somebody can tell you that maybe I've never said no to my husband when it comes to intimacy. Anytime your husband calls you, answer. I hope you understand what I'm saying. What the person did not tell you, that advice is not a wrong advice. After all, the Bible says you should submit, yourself, to each other. Okay, that is not a bad advice. But what the person might not tell you is how often the husband comes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe the person said, my husband, I've never said no to my husband. What the person did not tell you might be that maybe the husband maybe is not sexually active, or maybe the husband comes maybe once in a week. Then maybe your own husband comes 3 times in a day. That is something that will carry that other person for 1 week, or even 1 week plus. The person might not go into details of why she will not say no to her husband. Then when the person said, anytime my husband says yes and says I want it, I'll give him to then your husband is somebody that comes 3 times a day. Then the advice, you just took the advice. Your brain is not basura. Just you have to learn how your marriage is structured, and apply to your marriage. If you're somebody that used to say no to your husband, what you would do is to adjust, increase the time or the number of times you do it, knowing your spouse. You're the one that knows your spouse more than the person giving you advice. Okay, so you take advice, the good ones, learn how your family is structured, because your family is unique, and know how you're going to apply some advice that is given to you. Like in those days, I know that my mother was a civil servant in those days. So how they do their finances, that whenever they pay her, she submits her salary to my dad. And from there, my father will give her own pocket money and all. And I have an aunt also. What works for them is that she does her thing. She earns her money. How they do it, I think monthly she gives her husband, and when they have a project, the husband will tell her, bring so amount of money. They'll bring. It's working for them. So if this person now comes and tells you, I give my, so be careful. Even if you want to apply that kind of advice to your own, how to, present it to your husband to work for your own good, not carry somebody else's advice. You will not check the structure of your family. You will not apply it. Sometimes it causes problem. That's why sometimes you hear she gave me advice and I applied it and it caused problem. The advice might not necessarily be wrong, but it's just that you applied it not knowing the structure of your family. So know the structure of your family. Your family is peculiar to you. Your family is unique. So be careful how you apply some principles or some advice to your marriage, so that it doesn't cause problems. In my 14 years of marriage, is that companionship is a big deal in marriage. If you get married over the years, the high tendency for you to take your spouse, for granted is there. Don't forget that love grows and love dies. It depends on what you want. Why most time people say that love is not enough to sustain marriage? Because the love somehow will gradually, it will be like it's trying to fade. But the only way you can just get that flavor keep burning is by companionship. Be intentional about this particular one, about companionship. And the only way you can do that is to complement each other, is to do things in common, pray together, gist together, play together, have your bath together, take decisions together. This is the little ways you have to be intentional. about this companionship, because I said this in my previous video, that this life in general has a way of fighting, closeness, fighting marriage, your job, the kids, and all. So you have to be intentional about this companionship. Sleep together, gist together, and of course, your intimacy is also very, very important. So companionship. The next thing I have learned in marriage is that you must compromise. If you're not ready to compromise, then marriage is not for you. Okay? If you're not ready to give up on some things, if you're not ready, if you're somebody that wants your decision to be, you're the one and only, that he or she that has to be obeyed all the time, let me inform you that marriage is not for you. Okay? So in marriage, you got to compromise more than you even expect for peace to reign. Most of the time, people say that marriage is hard. Marriage is not that hard. What is hard is that the two people refuse to give up on some things. The two people refuse to, work together. People want to enjoy blissful marriage, but they don't want to, work towards it. Okay? So if you know that you want to enjoy, one of the things I've learned in marriage is that you want to enjoy bliss, you must learn to compromise. You must learn to let go of things just for peace to reign. They say that two friends, for them to be together, one obviously has to be a fool. Sometimes you have to be a fool for things to go on well. So there's no way you can do a blissful marriage without compromise. The next thing I have learned in marriage, that it takes two to tango. Yes, it takes two of you to tango. That two people that want their marriage to work. I'll give you an example. Do you know that no matter how careful you are on the road, if you obey the rules and regulations of the road, only you and every other person on the road is either the person is drunk driving, or one person does not obey the rules and regulations, they must crash your car. Abi, so that is the way marriage is. It takes two people that wants the marriage to work. That's why sometimes you say this person is a good woman, or why is their marriage not working? Because probably it is one person that is putting in the work. Only one person. The other person doesn't care, to put in the work. It will always clash. Okay? So if you want your marriage to work, try your best to carry your partner along. One person cannot make one person cannot make marriage work. It takes two to tango. The two will not work together if they don't agree. So get to a point that you people agree, disagree to agree. So it takes two people to make a marriage work. The next thing I've learned in marriage, and this one is also very, very important if you really want to experience peace in your marriage. Whenever you have problem, the moment you start seeing your husband as the problem, that problem will linger more than when two of you come together to see that there is an issue in between. If you people have a misunderstanding, maybe there is something that is causing a misunderstanding, you people tackle the problem. Two of you will come together to tackle that problem. Do you understand? But the moment you start seeing your husband or your wife as the enemy, the problem will linger. That's one of the things I've learned in marriage. Do not always, your husband might have a role to play, but the moment you start seeing that the main issue in the marriage is not your husband, it is the problem, it will give you an oversight to know where the problem is coming from and how to tackle it. The last but not the least is communication. Sometimes the communication might be very uncomfortable, but communication is the bedrock of a peaceful marriage. You have to speak out. I'm somebody that whenever I'm angry, I shut down. Like, I don't like talking, But I will say that silence has also helped in many aspects of my life, including my marriage. But there are times that is very necessary that you have to speak, that you have to communicate, It's just for you to get the right time. Sometimes the communication, like I said, might be uncomfortable. It might not be necessarily what you want to discuss, but you find out on whenever you speak out, you tackle the problem and you see the scenario will be at peace. Okay, don't be somebody that is, you know, you keep putting things, holding things in your heart. That will make you keep hating. The more you put in, the more you hate your spouse. And that is very unhealthy for your marriage, honestly. Because if you notice that if you have a problem or a misunderstanding with your spouse, the more you leave it to linger, the more the more intense the misunderstanding will be. But the moment you come out and tackle the problem, whoo, it's like you vomited something and you'll be at peace. Okay, so communication is the bedrock of marriage. So yeah, these are the few things I want to share with you. There are a lot of things I've learned in marriage as well, but these are the few things I thought I should share with you. Please, if you're married and you're watching me, will be so delighted to know the things you have also learned in your marriage. You can agree with me that marriage is not hard. It's just for us to put in the hard work. We're going to enjoy it. Marriage is very sweet. I know that marriage is sweet. It's just that sometimes we're too busy, we're too nonchalant, we don't want to put in the work. Okay, I think I have to stop here. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to leave your comments and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very, very soon in my next one. Bye.